Progressive Christianity is having a moment as its leaders are getting a lot of press as they get arrested in protests against the inhumane treatment of immigrants by ICE and take stands against the looming threat of tyranny in America. Fundamentalist pastors are loudly railing against progressive Christians, saying that they've been sent by Satan to lead people astray. By the way, it's the best advertising our movement has ever had. Lots of evangelicals are leaving their churches looking for a kinder and saner form of the faith. But what is this thing called progressive Christianity? A lot is written about it and said about it. What I have done in this book is to put it together and give a comprehensive response to this question. And the first thing that I put across in this book is that it is a form of the faith that does not have a fixed doctrine. And what that means is that my expression of what progressive Christianity is my perspective, not yours, not anybody else's. Other people will have different answers to this question, which is good and is in keeping with the nature of what progressive Christianity is. I hope that my book will help you form and express your own understanding of Christianity. If we can talk clearly about our faith, we'll be much better able to practice it in our own lives and in our service to the world. God is love. There it is in the Bible, toward the end of the Bible, in the first letter of John in the New Testament. It is the start and the finish. It is the Alpha and the Omega. It is the beginning and the end of progressive Christianity. Now, is God more than love? Well, that question deserves a lot longer discussion, right? Is God more than love? But if God is no more and no less than love, God is plenty divine, right? Because it is amazing, it is awesome, it is a marvel that at least in one little planet swirling around a lonesome, obscure star in a lonesome, obscure galaxy in this giant universe, love has emerged. And not just love of family and friends, not just love of beautiful things and beautiful entities, love that extends even to enemies, love that extends to the whole universe. Agape love, unconditional love, agape in biblical Greek. Now, if there is more to God than this kind of love, progressive Christians are happy to explore that. But agape love matters more to us than anything else. Because love is personal, because it's a relationship that's personal, we find ourselves talking about God as a person. But whenever we use the word God, really we're using poetry, right? Because our experience of unconditional love is so awesome that we can hardly wrap words around it. So it's no wonder, isn't it, that so many of the names of God have awe in them, right? Yahweh, the Hebrew name for God, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, Atman, and so on. A-W-E, A-H-H-H-H-H-H, and on to infinity. God is love, and God is awe, and Christianity is the practice of cultivating that awe, however you spell it, in our lives. For us, prayer is not about asking a supernatural guy in the sky for special favors. Although there's certainly nothing wrong with doing that, rather for us, prayer ultimately is the contemplative practice that empties our small s selves and identifies us rather with the capital S self, the God of love, the cosmic, universal self. By lovingly attending to our thoughts and our emotions and our bodily feelings, letting go of definitions and judgments and opinions, we drop away from identifying ourselves with these experiences, and rather we take on the role of the observer, the compassionate knower and watcher within us. This focused, prayerful attention spills over into our relationships with each other and with the wider world, making us better able to pay deep, non-judgmental attention to them and to be able to serve them as they need to be served. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, but step beyond that, do unto others as others would have you do unto them. A little different. That's next level agape love. Progressive Christians read the Bible as the language of our faith, and as with any language, we pick and choose the elements of it that speak for us, and we let go of the elements that don't. Have any of you ever used all the words in the Oxford Dictionary? I don't think so. That would take several lifetimes in any case. And same with the Bible. We creatively employ its poetry and its stories from ancient times to access our own spiritual experience and express it today. The Bible is humans' words about their soul journeys, and not the words of a supernatural God telling us how we should live and how we should believe today. We take it seriously because we don't have to take it literally. Because the Bible's stories bubbled up from the collective unconscious of humanity. Its myths are made sacred by their powerful resonance with the souls of so many people over so many centuries. The gospel story of Jesus' ministry is perhaps the greatest myth ever told. But we recognize that other faiths may be as good for others as our faith is for us. We are religious pluralists, eager to learn from other faiths and incorporate the practices of other faiths into our own. Jesus' way was the way of humility. He entered Jerusalem not on a high horse, but on a lowly donkey. So it makes no sense for the religion of such a humble man to get so full of itself that it would claim to be the only religion for humanity. Progressive Christians aspire to this humility in our relationships with people of other faiths or of no religion at all. Progressive Christians strive to follow Jesus' way of radical compassion. He was a fully human being who found the God of agape love in himself. In St. Paul's words, he emptied himself and took the form of a slave or a servant. He set aside his ego and understood that his central essence was one with the love who is God. And he taught others to do and to be the same. He was a mystic, a person who strove to be one with the divine, to get the small s self out of the way. And his way leads us to be that kind of mystics as well. Now, surely the historic person of Jesus, the real guy, was an extraordinarily kind and spiritually awakened person. But after he was executed by the Romans, who considered him a threat to their rule in Israel, myths formed around his memory, which we find in the four Gospels in the Christian New Testament. These mythological Jesus stories don't have to be taken literally in order for them to transform us and guide us along his way. The sacred myth of Jesus' life and his death saves us from selfishness, shallowness, greed, and cruelty, and leads us to practice kindness and establish justice. The cross focuses us on the ways we crucify ourselves and others. And it focuses us and aims us toward the life of forgiveness and redemption on its other side. Because for us, Christianity is a way and not a fixed set of beliefs and rules. Many of the other features of the faith, the other forms of the faith that so many people find objectionable or strange, those things fall away. Many Christians are focused on one or another form of orthodoxy, sets of belief that are supposed to be definitive. Progressive Christianity is, by contrast, an otherdoxy. An otherdoxy. It is focused on oneness with the wholly other and on radical attentiveness to the needs of other people. Progressive Christianity embraces science. It embraces common sense. If something in the Bible looks like a myth, we assume that it is not to be taken as historically factual. If something in the Bible looks inhumane, we understand it to be a product of a certain historical context that no longer applies to us today. Progressive Christians embrace social and technological progress. Our churches were the first to ordain women and queer people as pastors and to perform same-sex marriages even before they were legal. I performed a same-sex marriage for the first time 28 years ago. And those weddings changed the culture. People saw with their own eyes and they felt with their own hearts that marriage is marriage, whether heterosexual or not. At the same time, progressive Christians actively resist the forces in our culture that are oppressive. We advocate in the public sphere for peace, for racial, economic, and environmental justice. We believe that heaven and hell are metaphors for the positive and negative consequences of our personal and our social choices. So we stand against selfishness and greed and insensitivity. We stand against the use of technology to oppress people and to destroy the environment. We follow the clear example of Jesus, who put first the needs of the most vulnerable. We measure the goodness of our society by how well it treats the poor, the sick, the troubled, the prisoners, the immigrants. We understand that there are many ways to create what Jesus called the kingdom of heaven on earth. There's not one particular economic or political agenda or dogma that we have to follow to get there. We're skeptical of any kind of ism, but we are committed to stay engaged in the struggle for the long term. That's why you find a disproportion of progressive Christian churches in the public sphere and social change work. Progressive Christians do life in community like this one. For us, the church is a fitness center for love. It is a place where we cultivate awe, A-W-E, and A-H-H-H-H-H-H. We come together to remind each other of what matters and also to remind each other about what doesn't matter. Right? To remember and to creatively employ our sacred Christian myths and traditions, and to find fresh meanings in them. To wrestle with the questions of how best to love and take care of each other through the good times and the hard times. To commit ourselves to serving our fellow humans and protecting our precious planet. Our churches are defined not by walls of dogma, but by a communion table at the center that welcomes everyone to a sacred meal of bread and wine, regardless of ages, wages, beliefs, non-beliefs, or stations in life. What is progressive Christianity? That's my answer. What's yours?